I'm Clara Hale, 32 freelance editor, part-time barista, full-time disappointment. At least, that's how my family tends to frame it. I come home every Christmas, no matter how busy I am, no matter what it costs. I show up with the wine, the gifts, the soft smile. I sit at the same spot at the same table, like I still belong there, like I'm still part of the Hale family. That's what I thought I was doing this year, too. The house was quiet when I walked in. Not cozy quiet. Wrong quiet. No laughter, no overbaked cinnamon cookies, no Bing Crosby on the dusty stereo. Just the fake tree blinking in the corner and the sound of metal tapping porcelain. I followed it into the kitchen. And there she was. My grandmother Dorothy Hale, 81, in her favorite purple knit sweater, the one with the little snag on the left sleeve she never let me fix. Her hair was up in its usual soft twist, though I could tell she'd done it without help this time. A plate of cold ham and stuffing sat in front of her, half-eaten, forgotten. She looked up and smiled when she saw me, the kind of smile you give someone when you're glad they came, but sad they had to. "You're early, sweetheart," she said. Her voice was thin this year. Tired, I set my coat on the chair, careful not to let the door slam. "Where is everybody?" Grandma didn't answer. She just reached across the table with a trembling hand and slid something toward me. It was a torn piece of notebook paper, folded once. No envelope. My name. Clara, written in my mother's handwriting, spent your $8 and $500 loan on the family cruise. Sorry, take care of Grandma while we're gone. Mom. My mother, Elaine, always did have a way of making betrayal sound like a casual favor. I stared at the note. Read it once. Then again, the words blurred around loan and cruise. That money was for my dental surgery. I'd been putting it off for 2 years, worked nights, skipped meals, drove Uber in the snow. I'd finally saved enough. Every dollar mine, and they'd spent it on a vacation. I looked at Grandma. She was holding her orange juice with both hands, now careful not to spill. "I guess they didn't think you'd mind," she said softly. I sat down, slowly. The kitchen chair felt colder than I remembered. "They left you here," I whispered. She didn't answer right away, just folded the napkin on her lap like it was Sunday dinner and we had company coming. Then she looked at me, calm, clear-eyed. "We'll fix this," she said. "That's all. Not, I'm sorry. Not, let it go. Just, we'll fix this." And somehow that broke something in me far deeper than the money ever could. I nodded. Not because I had a plan, but because for the first time in years, I wasn't alone at that table. We sat there for a long time that night, me staring at that torn piece of paper like it might change if I stared hard enough. Grandma Dorothy quietly chewing her cold ham like disappointment was just another thing you learn to swallow. I should have said something. But what do you say when your family steals from you and leaves you a person to love as a consolation prize? I took her plate, warmed it up in the microwave, found her a fresh fork. It was such a small thing, but her eyes softened when I handed it back. You always remembered the little things she said. She didn't mean the fork. She meant the 100 other things I'd remembered when no one else did. Like how she liked her tea, steeped 5 full minutes. How her arthritis flared up when it rained. How she still flinched when someone closed a cabinet too hard, because Grandpa used to slam things before he left for good. I sat back down across from her, the note still between us. "I don't think they meant to be cruel," I said quietly. Grandma took a long sip of tea and raised an eyebrow. "Oh, honey," she said. "Of course they did. That's the only way they know how to be." It hit me then, not like a punch, but a slow settling. This wasn't the first time they'd chosen themselves. I remembered being 17, sitting on the edge of this same kitchen chair, trying to explain that I hadn't taken the pills from her medicine cabinet, that it was Caleb, our golden boy, who'd stolen them, that he needed help. And I remembered how Mom didn't ask questions. She just packed my bags and told me I couldn't stay if I kept lying. The only person who came out to the driveway that night was Grandma. She wrapped me in her coat, the brown one that smelled like ivory soap, and whispered, "Call me when you land. Don't disappear like your mother did." She was the only one who ever checked in after that, birthdays finals. One winter when I had the flu, she mailed me a wool hat she crocheted herself. It still had 3 loops missing on the rim. I wore it anyway. No one else remembered, but she did. Now she sat across from me, 81, with the same steady eyes. "I guess," I said slowly. "They never really saw us as part of the story." Grandma folded her napkin and looked at me with something almost like pride. That's because they only write themselves into the ending. But we've been here since page 1. That night, I slept on the old pull-out couch in the den. She brought me an extra blanket, the floral one I always used as a kid, and left a cup of chamomile on the nightstand. Neither of us said goodnight. We didn't need to. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of toast, not the artificial cinnamon sugar kind Mara used to burn in the toaster, but real bread. Rye cut thick, toasted on the pan. The way Grandma always made it when someone was sick or sad, I found her in the kitchen humming something soft. She had her slippers on the wrong feet and her cardigan hung off one shoulder like she'd dressed in a hurry. But her hands moved steady, buttering the toast edge to edge. "I figured you didn't sleep much," she said, not looking up. "You always hated the pull-out." I smiled. "You remember that?" She gave me a look. "I remember you." She slid the plate toward me and then, like it was nothing, placed an old wooden box on the table. Faded, dusty, I hadn't seen it in years. Inside were papers, tax forms, bank statements, envelopes with sticky notes. Grandma reached in and pulled out a small green notebook. Her handwriting filled every page: grocery lists, medication changes, dates, passwords. She flipped to a page labeled 2016, the year they started using me. "This is where we begin," she said. I didn't ask how she knew what I was thinking. She just did. For the next 2 days, we worked like librarians, sorting a crime scene. No drama, just paper pens, reading glasses. She'd squint at something, circle it, and pass it to me. I'd cross-reference it on my laptop, check timestamps, bank routing numbers. We set up shop in the living room. She sat in her old recliner with the cushion that always slid sideways, and I curled up on the floor with an extension cord and a legal pad. There was something oddly holy about it. Quiet, focused, like building a case in the church pews. In between scans and highlighter marks, we talked. She told me about the first time Caleb asked to borrow her debit card just for gas, how it turned into grocery bills, then cash withdrawals. Then, one day, she noticed her pharmacy copay had bounced. "I didn't want to believe it," she said, "but I also didn't want to be the kind of mother who raised children who'd do that. So I told myself maybe it was a mistake." I nodded. "They rely on that." She looked over the rim of her glasses. "They rely on the women in this family having short memories and big hearts. We found proof of cruise deposits, Mara using Dorothy's login from an old shared tablet. A paper trail of emergencies that ended up as Sephora orders and PayPal charges for concert tickets Caleb had been sending himself cash every other Friday from Grandma's pension fund. When we broke for tea, she added a slice of lemon to my cup without asking. "You still like it this way, don't you?" I did. I always had. We didn't say the word revenge, not once, because this wasn't about punishment. It was about truth. And the truth was, they'd left her, left me, not once but in pieces over years. Now we were collecting those pieces. One receipt, one password, one screenshot at a time. By the end of the second night, we had a folder, color-coded, dated, cross-referenced. Dorothy patted it like it was something living. "This isn't justice," she said, "but it's proof. And sometimes, sweetheart, that's enough." They came back on a Sunday. I knew they would. Elaine never missed Sunday dinner, even when she was the one who didn't cook it. She'd want to be seen returning, want to walk in like nothing happened, like Dorothy hadn't been abandoned with a carton of orange juice and a 9-word note. Grandma and I were ready, but not in the way they might have imagined. No shouting, no confrontation. Just a folder on the dining table, my laptop fully charged, and a chair set at the head of the table where Dorothy always used to sit before they started ignoring her. All together, I made tea. Not for them, for us. At 5:47 p.m., headlights swept across the living room wall, a car door slammed, then another laughter outside, high-pitched, effortless. The front door opened like it always had without knocking. "Ugh," Mara groaned, dragging her designer suitcase across the entryway. I swear the last night on the ship gave me hives. Too much shellfish, behind her. Elaine walked in with oversized sunglasses still on, even though the sun was already slipping behind the pines. Her perfume hit first floral heavy, the same scent she wore to funerals and fundraisers. Russell followed with his usual grunt, his face red from too many poolside daiquiris. Then Caleb, last as always, dropped his duffel bag in the hallway and headed straight for the couch. No one looked at Grandma. No one said her name. Elaine squinted toward the kitchen. "Did you even clean a little?" she asked, stepping over Dorothy's shawl like it was a pile of old towels. Caleb snorted. Where's dinner? Don't tell me you cooked. Mara sat at the counter already scrolling through her phone. I'm starving. Can we do Chinese? I stood slowly. I hadn't moved until then. I let them walk into their comfort. Let them feel like they still ran the place. I'm glad you're all here, I said, my voice even. They turned, 4 heads, 4 expressions that all said the same thing. Oh, you're still here, Elaine sighed. Clara, let's not do this right now. We just got back. I pulled out the chair at the table, sat down, turned the laptop toward them. I think we should do it now. I said, I have something to show you. There was a pause. Caleb rolled his eyes. Oh God, not this again. Still bitter over your little loan. Dorothy hadn't spoken. She didn't need to. She sat down across from me, hands folded in her lap, eyes fixed on the screen, calm, present. For the first time in years, she looked like the head of the family again. I clicked open the first folder. Label transactions, unauthorized. The room was still. Then the video began. The video wasn't flashy, just a screen recording of a spreadsheet, white background, black text, clean rows, dates, amounts, recipients, every withdrawal from Grandma's pension account for the past 2 years, names attached, store locations, timestamps. Elaine leaned in, squinting. What is this? I answered without looking at her. It's where the cruise money came from. Mara laughed, nervous. You're making this a bigger deal than it is. I clicked on the next tab, a screenshot. Grandma's online banking profile. Logins from a device registered to Mara's email. Transactions made minutes apart from Caleb's Venmo activity. Elaine's voice dropped Clara. Another click. An email exchange from Elaine's account to Mara. I used the pin she left on the fridge. He won't notice the deposit missing. Mara replied. He's a softie. Plus, who leaves Grandma alone on Christmas anyway? The room shrank. I pulled up the audio file. Hit play. Kelly's voice. Caleb's wife, shaky but clear. I didn't want to go. I told Caleb it was wrong. But he said if Clara didn't give the money, they'd leave her and deal with it later. He said, she always folds. I couldn't do it anymore. I'm sorry. Caleb bolted upright. You recorded my wife. That's illegal. No, I said calmly. She asked me to. She said she was tired of covering for you, tired of watching you bleed people dry. Elaine's lips thinned. You little snake, after everything we've done for you. You mean taken from me, I said. I opened the last window. An email draft addressed to the Social Security Fraud Division, Grandma's elder care attorney, 2 local news desks, and the county ombudsman. Subject: formal report of financial elder abuse. Evidence attached. You have 48 hours. I said, eyes steady to return every cent. The silence after that was alive, a waiting thing. Then Dorothy stood. No anger, just a slowness that made everyone watch. She moved to the head of the table, placed her hand on the chair back like it was once again hers to command. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. I raised 3 of you. I changed your diapers, wiped your noses, paid your school lunches. And when my hips gave out, you left me with frozen carrots in an empty house so you could drink champagne on stolen money. She looked at Elaine, then Caleb, then Mara. You're lucky it's Clara asking for the money. If it were me alone. She let the sentence hang. Russell cleared his throat and left the room. Mara started to cry. Said she didn't know it was that serious. Elaine muttered something about being destroyed by this mess. Caleb stared at me like I'd betrayed him. You're not family anymore, he spat. I smiled. Not cruel. Just free. I know. They didn't believe I would do it. Even after I showed them the email, even after Grandma stared them down with 81 years of quiet memory, they still thought I was bluffing, that I'd fold like I always had. I didn't. 48 hours passed. Nothing moved. Not the money, not a single text. So I sent the email, attachments and timestamps, screenshots, audio names. At 6:13 p.m., I got a response. Case opened. Thank you for your submission. The next morning, it all cracked open. News alerts, missed calls, messages from numbers. I didn't save anymore. You didn't have to take it this far. We're family. You're making it worse. I forwarded every message to Natalie Grandma's attorney, a woman with the voice of a librarian and the spine of a federal agent. She didn't flinch. By noon, formal letters went out. Elder abuse, unauthorized withdrawals, financial misrepresentation, the amount owed with interest and fees, 14 to 300-222-85.5. That evening, Elaine showed up at the door. She didn't knock. She stood there in yesterday's makeup and a coat I hadn't seen since 2012. I brought a check, she said, voice raw. 8,500. Don't ask for more. I didn't reach for it. She shoved the envelope into my hand. You're turning your back on your mother, she hissed. I stepped out, closed the door behind me, looked her in the eye and said, No, I'm turning my back on a thief. 2 days later, Mara sent a wire transfer, 4 payments spaced a week apart. Her employer had found the article, the one with the headline, Family Steals Grandmother's Pension Gets Exposed by Eldest Grandchild. Mara's name was in the screenshots, her captions, her emails. She begged me to take the story down. I told her to make the next payment on time. Caleb was last. He posted on social media about toxic siblings and family betrayal, complete with dramatic music. It got 3 likes, then Kelly, his wife, left him. She called me that same night. I'm sorry it took me this long, she said, but watching you do this made me realize I don't have to stay scared. I helped her find a place. No strings. By the end of 2 weeks, every dollar was returned. I used part of it to finally fix my teeth. Bought Dorothy a proper lift chair, paid for a home nurse to check in twice a week. The rest went into a joint account, just our names on it, ours and no one else's. When I showed her the paperwork, she stared at it for a long time. They took everything from me, she whispered. But they didn't take you. We moved out that spring, a small apartment. 1 floor. Quiet, 2 rooms, 1 for her, 1 for me. She called hers the fort. Filled it with old quilts, faded pictures, and the ceramic angel I once gave her when I was 7. We grocery shopped together. She picked out soup cans like they were gemstones. Every time she found a ginger ale on sale, she'd nudge my elbow and say, You always liked this, even when you swore you didn't. One night she knocked on my door, sat slowly on the bed. When you saw the note, she asked, Why didn't you just leave? I thought for a long time. Then I said, Because I remembered who I was before they made me forget. She reached over, touched my hand. Just once, I'm proud of you, she said, not because of the money, because you stayed kind. That broke something soft in me, something that hadn't made a sound in years. They never called again, not on my birthday, not on hers, not even when the article made the state newsletter. But I heard through a cousin that Elaine tried starting a cooking blog. It lasted 2 posts. Mara changed her name on LinkedIn. Caleb's wages were garnished. They were still trying to rewrite the story, but I had the receipts, and the truth was already out there. Sometimes people ask if I regret what I did. I don't. Because that quiet apartment, the way Dorothy hums when she folds laundry, the way we sit at dinner without needing to talk, that's peace. And for the first time in my life, I don't feel like I'm surviving family. I feel like I finally have one.